This year in media studies I have used a lot of new technologies such as editing software and cameras, as well as that using sound recording technologies and lighting effects. This year we had access to Final Cut Pro X, whereas before in the preliminary tasks we had Final Cut Express. Although both are Final Cut products, Final Cut Pro had its similarities to Express, but had a lot more differences, so it felt like I had to learn a whole new editing software. Some of the effects in Final Cut Pro were very easy to use, such as the colour masking. On screen there is an image of a clip taken from my film. Originally on the clip there was an orange splash of rain on the camera, which meant that the orange light behind made a big orange circle on it. Through colour masking I was able to remove it from the clip. Another piece of editing software that I used was Sony Vegas Pro 10. I used this to create my ident at home. Another piece of software that I used to create my ident was Photoshop. This was new to me, so it took me quite a long time to make the picture that I used in my ident. However, after playing around with it for several hours, I learned how to use Photoshop with ease, and it allowed me to create my ident. As well as that, once I had all the pieces of my ident, I moved them all over to Sony Vegas Pro 10. This was pretty simple, as I'd used Sony Vegas a few times before, so I knew what I was doing. However, I learned more things about editing than I had done before. I was very fortunate that a good friend of mine had some high-tech cameras and other equipment. He agreed to lend me his camera for the filming of my opening sequence. The camera that he allowed me to use was a Sony HXR MC2000E. I had used the camera before earlier on in the year with other filming that I had done with him. However, I only knew the basic functions. Before filming my opening sequence, I had a few test recordings with the camera after changing some of the settings around to get the right angles and framing. I learned a great deal about using the camera, as it was used to film both the outdoor scenes and the indoor scenes of my opening sequence. The sound recording equipment that I used was a Sony ECM PS1 shotgun microphone attached to the camera. We also had to use a windscreen on the end of the microphone to prevent the sound of the wind hitting the mic. However, the intensity of the wind was too much, and there was still an amount of noise from the wind recorded. I used my iPhone 4S multiple times during the making of my film. The first time that I used it was to take photos of people in the correct framing for a photo storyboard that I uploaded to my blog. The second use that I had for my iPhone was using an app on it which allowed me to use the flash as a light during my opening sequence. This meant that I could get a low-key light above the actors so it was clear enough to see their face, however, not clear enough to see out from behind the actors. In conclusion, I have learned a lot more about the technologies that I have used that I did not previously have knowledge about, and I hope to be able to take them forward into A2 next year.